Picture this. It is a Tuesday morning in October. Gary is 62 years old, a warehouse supervisor from Akron, Ohio. His back hurts, his knees hurt, and he has been doing the math in his head for 3 years. He's got about $180,000 saved in his 401k. Not bad, not great. And Social Security has been sending him those little estimates, $16.50 a month if he files right now at 62. Gary thinks, that is almost $20,000 a year. I'm tired. I have earned this. And honestly, who knows how long I have got? So Gary files. And Gary, without knowing it, just made a decision that will cost him, conservatively, $180,000 over the course of his retirement. Not because Gary is bad at math, not because Gary is reckless, but because nobody sat down with Gary and showed him the actual numbers side by side. Nobody showed him what that one decision looks like over 20 years. Nobody told him there was a middle option he never even considered. Today, we are going to fix that. We are going to walk through the real math on filing at 62 versus filing at 70, show you the break-even point nobody talks about, introduce you to a strategy that most financial advisors gloss over, and help you figure out which decision actually makes sense for your life, not just on paper, but in the real world you are actually living in. Let's get into it.
Here is what I hear constantly. I talk to so many of you who say some version of the same thing. I want to get my money back before the government changes the rules. Or I paid into this system for 40 years. I am taking it while it's there. And I want to be very clear. That fear is completely legitimate. It is not irrational. The Social Security Trust Fund has real funding questions on the horizon. The uncertainty is real. The exhaustion after decades of working is real. And nobody has the right to tell you that your feelings about that are wrong. But here is the myth hiding inside that fear, that filing early is the safe move, that getting the money sooner is always better than getting more money later. We are going to look at whether that is actually true, with specific numbers, not feelings. And I will tell you right now what we are not going to do. We're not going to tell you to delay until 70 no matter what. We're not going to make you feel foolish for considering 62. There is no universally correct answer here, but there is a correct answer for you, and we are going to help you find it.
Before we run the numbers, I need you to shift how you are thinking about this decision. Most people treat Social Security like a prize to be claimed, like a reward you finally get to collect after a long career. And that framing, while completely understandable, is costing people tens of thousands of dollars. Here is the reframe. Social Security is not a reward to be claimed. It is an income stream to be engineered. The date you file is not a finish line. It is a lever. And depending on when you pull it, that lever either shrinks your income for the rest of your life or multiplies it in ways that compound across decades. Once you see it as a lever instead of a prize, everything about this decision changes. Let's run the numbers.
The penalty box. What filing at 62 actually does to your check. Let's start with the mechanic, because most people have a rough sense of this, but not the precise numbers. And the precise numbers matter. Your Social Security benefit is calculated based on your full retirement age, or FRA. For everyone born in 1960 or later, which includes a huge portion of people watching this right now, your FRA is 67. If you file at 62, you are filing 5 years early. And the Social Security Administration does not just shrug at that. According to the SSA, filing at 62 reduces your benefit by 30%, permanently. Let me say that again, 30% permanently. So let's put Gary back in the picture. Gary's full benefit at 67 would be $2,350 a month,
right around the 2026 national average for a career worker. But Gary filed at 62. So instead of $2,350, Gary gets $1,645 a month. That is $705 less every single month for the rest of his life. In the first year alone, that is $8,460 Gary is not collecting. But here's where the analogy I want you to hold on to comes in. Filing at 62 is like agreeing to drive a car that is permanently stuck in second gear. You get moving faster, sure, but everyone else on the highway eventually passes you, and you can never shift up. Because Social Security also gives annual cost of living adjustments, COLAs, on top of your base benefit. In 2026, that COLA is 2.5%. And here's the thing about COLAs. They are calculated as a percentage of your base benefit, which means Gary's COLA is calculated on $1,645, not on $2,350. The gap between Gary and someone who waited does not stay at $705. It grows every single year.
The bonus lane. What waiting until 70 actually earns you? Now, let's look at the other end of the spectrum. For every year you delay filing past your full retirement age, Social Security credits your benefit by 8% per year. From 67 to 70, that is 3 years of delay credits, adding 24% on top of your full benefit. So Gary's $2,350 full benefit becomes $2,914 a month at 70. Let's compare the two Garys side by side. Gary at 62, $1,645 per month. Gary at 70, $2,914 per month. That is a difference of $1,269 every single month. Every month for the rest of Gary's life. Over 20 years, which takes Gary to age 90, a realistic expectation given that the Social Security Administration projects the average 62-year-old man today will live to approximately 84, with a meaningful portion reaching their late 80s and beyond. The difference is staggering. Gary at 62, over 20 years, $394,800. Gary at 70, over 20 years, $699,360. That gap, $304,560. Accounting for the 8 years Gary at 70 collected nothing, the net advantage of waiting is right around $180,000. That is not a rounding error. That is a mortgage. That is a legacy. That is the number in the title of this video. Think of the higher benefit like a snowball at the top of a hill. The longer you wait to push it, the bigger it is when it starts rolling. And it picks up speed every year through COLAs it will never give back.
The break-even bridge. The moment everything flips. Now, the honest math means I have to show you the other side of this. Gary at 70 collected nothing for 8 years, while Gary at 62 was cashing checks. That is real money Gary at 70 left on the table. $158,040 in total payments he never received during those 8 years. So there is a break-even point, a specific age where the higher benefit from waiting finally overtakes all the money collected by filing early. For most people, that break-even point lands between ages 80 and 82. If Gary lives past 82, waiting until 70 wins. And it wins by a larger and larger margin every year after that. If Gary does not make it to 82, filing earlier would have put more total money in his pocket. This is the honest math, and it means this decision is not purely financial. It is personal. It depends on your health, your family history, your stress about money right now, and whether you have other income sources to bridge the gap. I talk to so many of you who say, "My dad died at 74. I am not waiting." That is a completely rational input into this decision. We're going to come back to how you factor that in. But first, there is a section most people never hear about.
The surprise section. The restricted application.
The middle option Gary never knew existed. Here is the part most people never hear about. There is a third path between 62 and 70 that millions of married Americans are completely unaware of. It is called the restricted application strategy. And depending on your household, it could be the most powerful move on this entire list. Here's how it works. If you are married and both of you have worked, one spouse can file for their own Social Security at 62, collecting a reduced but real income stream, while the other spouse delays all the way to 70 to maximize the household's highest benefit. Why does that matter? Because when one spouse passes away, the surviving spouse keeps the higher of the two benefits. Not both, just the higher one. This is the survivor benefit. And according to the Social Security Administration, roughly 60% of surviving spouses are women, and women, on average, outlive men by about 5 years. So let's meet a new character, Sandra and Mike from Boise, Idaho. Mike is 62, Sandra is 60. Mike's full benefit at 67 would be $2,600. Sandra's would be $1,800. If Mike files at 62, his benefit drops to $1,820. If Mike waits to 70, his benefit climbs to $3,224. Now, when Mike passes away, and statistically Mike goes first, Sandra inherits that benefit. If Mike filed at 62, Sandra collects $1,820 for the rest of her life. If Mike waited to 70, Sandra collects $3,224 for the rest of her life. That is $1,404 more per month for potentially 15 to 20 years of Sandra's widowhood. Over 20 years, that difference is $336,960. Delaying Social Security for the higher earner in a married household is not just a personal financial decision. According to Fidelity's retirement research, it is one of the single most impactful acts of financial protection one spouse can give the other. This is the snowball that keeps rolling long after the person who pushed it is gone.
The bridge strategy. How to actually afford to wait. Okay, I can hear you saying, this all sounds great, but I am 62, I am tired, and I need income now. How am I supposed to wait until 70 if I stop working? This is where we talk about the bridge strategy. The bridge strategy is exactly what it sounds like. You build a financial bridge between retirement and age 70 using other income sources, so Social Security can keep growing while you live your life. Here are the 3 most common bridge materials. Bridge material 1, your 401k or IRA. If you have savings, drawing them down intentionally between 62 and 70 while delaying Social Security is not a mistake. It is a calculated trade. You are exchanging taxable retirement account dollars now for a permanently higher, inflation-adjusted, government-guaranteed benefit later. Morningstar research has consistently found that this trade is mathematically favorable for most people with moderate savings who expect to live past their early 80s. Bridge material 2, part-time work. This does not mean going back to a warehouse. Even $1,500 to $2,000 a month in part-time income, consulting, driving, tutoring, seasonal work, can meaningfully reduce how much you need to pull from savings during your bridge years. Bridge material 3, a spouse's income or benefit. In a 2-income household, one partner filing early while the other delays is a legitimate bridge strategy. The early filer brings in real income. The delayed filer builds a larger benefit. The household wins. Gary, if he had $180,000 in his 401k, could have drawn approximately $1,500 a month from that account for 8 years, $144,000 total, while waiting until 70. His monthly Social Security benefit would then be $1,269 higher every month for the rest of his life. He breaks even on that 401k withdrawal in about 9.5 years, by age 79.5. And every month after that, he is ahead.
with a larger benefit that Sandra, or whoever Gary loves, can inherit.
The tax trap, the silent cost nobody mentions at 62. Here is one more thing Gary's neighbor did not tell him at the barbecue. If you file for Social Security at 62 and you are still working, even part-time, you may be walking into the earnings test trap. In 2026, if you are under your full retirement age and you collect Social Security while earning more than $22,320 per year, the SSA withholds $1 in benefits for every $2 you earn above that limit. Let's say Gary picks up part-time walk and earns $32,000 a year. That is $9,680 over the limit. The SSA withholds $4,840 of his Social Security payments that year. Now, those withheld dollars are not gone forever. The SSA credits them back to your benefit once you reach full retirement age. But here is the problem. You already paid taxes on work income you were counting on Social Security to supplement. You built a budget around $1,645 a month and then didn't get all of it. For people living close to their means, that timing mismatch creates real financial stress. The earnings test is one of the most misunderstood mechanics in the entire Social Security system, and it disproportionately hits the people who retire early because they need the income and then realize they still need to work a little. That combination is a trap. Know it exists before you step in it.
Now, I want to be straight with you about something. Everything we just walked through assumes a reasonable life expectancy. It assumes your health is average or better. It assumes you have some financial flexibility, some savings, a working spouse, or some form of bridge income. If you are 62 with no savings, a serious health condition, no spouse, and no realistic ability to work, filing at 62 may be the right decision. Getting real income now is not a mistake when the alternative is financial hardship. Nobody in that situation should feel shamed into waiting 8 years. The math favors delay, but math does not pay your electric bill in the meantime. What this means is that the question is not really 62 or 70. The real question is, what does my bridge look like? If you can build a bridge, even a partial one, the delay pays off. If you cannot build a bridge at all, then the conversation shifts to how to maximize what you do have inside an earlier filing. Spousal coordination, benefit optimization, tax planning. The situation is solvable. It just requires a different set of tools.
Let's bring this home. Here is everything we covered today in plain English. Filing at 62 permanently reduces your Social Security benefit by 30%, and that gap grows every year through COLAs. Waiting until 70 increases your benefit by 24% above your full amount. And for married couples, the higher earner's delay is one of the greatest financial gifts one spouse can leave the other. The break-even point between filing early and filing late is roughly age 80 to 82. After that, waiting wins by a wider margin every single year. The restricted application strategy lets married couples coordinate filing dates to maximize both current income and survivor protection. The bridge strategy, using 401k withdrawals, part-time income, or a spouse's benefit, is how you afford to wait without going broke. The earnings test is a hidden trap for anyone who files early and keeps working. Know the $22,320 threshold before you make your move. And if your health or your financial situation makes early filing the only realistic option, that is not failure. It is planning within your real constraints, which is what smart people do. Here is the bigger truth I want to leave you with. This decision is not about Social Security. It is about designing the financial architecture of the last third of your life. The money is just the material. The design is yours. You have more control over this than the system wants you to believe. The lever is real. The math is in your favor if you plan it right. And now you know things that Gary from Akron didn't know on that Tuesday morning in October.
Here is my question for you this week, and I genuinely want to know,
Are you leaning toward filing early, filing at 70, or are you somewhere in the middle still figuring it out? Drop it in the comments. Tell me your age, your rough situation, and what's pulling you one way or the other. I read these, and your question might become the next video. If this broke down something you have been confused about for a while, hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need this kind of honest math. And if you are not subscribed yet, this is the kind of content we put out every week. No fluff, no products to sell, just the numbers. We will see you in the next one.